Oh yeah! Football is back, baby! Yeah! Isn't that awesome? The interesting thing is the lack of crowds. I didn't really notice as much in week one as maybe you do for baseball or basketball. Like those sports feel vastly different without the crowds. Whereas sure they're doing the Kevin Dunn, what's up, Doc, WWE type of pumped in canned heat, canned noise for football games. Just realize it's just not as important to the viewing experience as it is for some of those other sports. It's interesting. But nonetheless, week one has come and week one has gone. And I think for a lot of us, it certainly makes us very, very happy indeed. So let's take a look back at the week that was, talk about the games, some of the winners and losers, hand out some game balls, and then kind of close up shop. So starting off, the Chiefs and Texans kicked off the season on Thursday night. Chiefs used 31 unanswered points to jump out to a big second half, fourth quarter lead, and they did more than enough to hold off the Texans, winning 34-20. Good job, Bob! Who needs DeAndre Hopkins? We're going to run the ball! Nice try. Apparently, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson are already in midseason form, and thankfully for me, certainly, it appears the skid marks are already in midseason form. The Ravens were dominant on both sides of the ball, and they smoked the Cleveland Browns in this AFC North matchup 38-6. Gardner Minshew had an impressive, almost flawless day, and the Jaguars found a way to come back and beat the Colts behind new starting quarterback Phillip Rivers 27-20. Josh Jacobs, I almost said Brandon Jacobs, and sometimes I have to fight that urge to do so. Josh Jacobs had 3 TD runs, helped the Raiders overcome the Carolina Panthers in what was a good week one matchup 34-30. Down 17 early, Ron Rivera's Washington football team rattled off 27 unanswered points to come back and beat the Eagles 27-17 and take over first place in the NFC East. Who'd have seen that coming, huh? Huh? Another big debut on a new team. Cam Newton had 2 rushing touchdowns in his debut for the Patriots. Defense was still really good. They beat the Dolphins in Fitzmagic 21-11. Mitchell Trubisky came alive in the fourth quarter, but it was still all came down to a swift drop that led to the Bears in that crazy game on Sunday coming back to beat the Lions 27-23. And oh my God, Lions gonna Lions. What more can you say? I guess so much for the whole get me some help thing. Just draft a quarterback in round 1, put him on the bench behind him, and that'll piss off Aaron Rodgers enough. He had a huge day, as did Devontae Adams. They went off on that Vikings defense. Impressive road victory. Packers win 43-34. The Bills jumped off to a 21-0 lead. I mean, for God's sakes, they were playing the Jets. What'd you expect? They held them off 27-17. Russell Wilson says, I'm going to get me some MVP votes this year, damn it. Threw for 4 touchdowns, and the Seahawks easily handled the Atlanta Falcons 38-25. All I can say for Joe Burrow is, you tried, but welcome to the Mongols. Welcome. You get him into a position, and then it's a short missed field goal. It was a 31-yarder that Bullock missed. Chargers win 16-13. Good luck, Joe! Cardinals, behind Kyler Murray, scored 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and in one of the big statement wins of week one, they beat the defending NFC champions in Santa Clara, the San Francisco 49ers, 24-20. TB12 certainly had an up-and-down debut for the Bucs. Still early, but the returns weren't great in week number 1. Saints did more than enough to hold them off to win 34-23. Mike McCarthy rolled the dice late and ultimately rolled snake eyes. Rams hold on Sunday night as they open their new stadium in front of no fans, beating the Cowboys 20-17. How about them Cowboys? Big Ben is back in action, throws 3 TDs in his return, and then you got Dan Lai, Joe Manning doing his best to screw the pooch. It'd be nice if they block for him every once in a while. That's all I'm going to say. Steelers beat the Giants in the first Monday night game 26-16. And then Steven Gostkowski hits this just even sounds weird to say. Gostkowski kicking for somebody other than the Patriots. Steven Gostkowski's field goal with 17 seconds left lifts the Titans to a road victory in the Mile High City over the Denver Broncos 16-14. Now, when you talk about winners and losers of the week one slate of games, I think number 1, winners, Washington Redskins. That's an impressive victory coming back from 17 down early with a young quarterback. That front four they have on the defense that I talked about in the preview video is going to be a beast this year. Came through like a beast in the second half, and you get that first win for Ron Rivera, and they're sitting there in first place in the NFC East. The Green Bay Packers, quality road win, lots of questions about them, and Aaron Rodgers and the lack of help they got him on that offense going into this year, and they went out there and they spanked the Vikings. They put it up on them big time. And then I got to look at the Arizona Cardinals, a team that I certainly have some higher hopes for this year than maybe some others do. Coming out of the gate like that week one and sticking it to the defending NFC champions, like that's really nicely done. And a really strong early season statement game for this team. When you look at the losers, the Detroit Lions, like, number one, F you, because now I got to hear a bunch of delusional Bears fans thinking that this means big things when it doesn't. Number two, is one thing when you were doing this crap a bunch last year, but now you're doing it again this year. And you can blame injuries, you can blame this and that, but at some point in time, that comes down to coaching. And the fire Matt Patricia bandwagon should have already been rolling out of town, but it's certainly revving up the engines because that was embarrassing. You had the Bears down. You had your knee on their throats. And you didn't suffocate the life out of them. It was horrible. Then you got the skid marks. New head coach, same results. Baker was trash. Their defense didn't stop anybody in Baltimore. Same old skid marks football we've come to know and love. Oh, thank you, Jesus. At least for 1 week, I could enjoy it. And then you look at the new head coaches. You had several head coaches in their first games with new teams. The only one that won was Ron Rivera. Not a great debut weekend for some of these guys. Hopefully week 2 will be kinder to them. Game balls I want to hand out for this week. Aaron Rodgers threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, this is a guy that's got a lot of focus on him this year, especially with the Packers trading up a few picks in the first round in this year's draft to take Jordan Love, the quarterback out of Utah State. He didn't give him much help, and he came out and he threw down some really big numbers. Josh Jacobs had 139 total yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, the dude's a beast. What more can you really say? DeAndre Hopkins, how about this statement? Going up against the Niners and that great defense, 14 catches, 151 receiving yards, and a touchdown. I bet you couldn't use that, huh, Bob? Whew! That's a game ball right there. Stuff it, right? Dallas Goedert, in a losing effort, had 8 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown, even though the Eagles ended up going down to the Washington football team. Still got to fight, not saying the old name. In terms of defense and special teams units, you got to look at the Ravens, 2 sacks, 3 turnovers forced, only 6 points allowed. Like, that's a dominant statement, week 1 type of performance there. And then I look at the coaches, I got to go Ron Rivera. He's the only one of the new coaches with a new team this year that got his win in week 1, his first win in week 1. And then when you look at the way they did it, coming back from 17 down, obviously the team's bought in, they believe in him. And furthermore, when you look at everything that he's dealing with, the cancer treatments he's going through during the week, like, that's a well-earned game ball if there ever has been one, in my opinion. Now I bring it all home to talk about the 2-minute drill. And I think it's most important of all here. We are talking about week 1. And we've been so long without football, and it maybe still feels funny in some ways, and it's odd in some ways. But the most important key thing here is not to overreact to week 1. For anybody, if your team looked horrendous, that doesn't mean that they'll end up being horrendous. If your team looked okay, that could be who they are, but they might not. If your team looked great or fantastic, in a lot of cases, that may not be who they actually are. I know it's really, really hard with such a small body of work and with such a small slate of evidence to sit there and say, that a team isn't going to be this because of what you just saw. But the reality is there is a lot of season left to go. A lot of season left to go. And how many times you see a team lose week 1 and then go on, win their division, make playoffs, and do big things. Like, that stuff happens. It is important not to overreact. It is important not to lose your sense of your bearings and reality here. Because there are certainly teams that won in week 1 that probably actually look good at winning in week 1 that aren't going to be in the mix come December, and that's just the reality. And if you're going to talk about overreacting, Tom Brady did not look that great in week 1, but it was also week 1 with a new team and a new system. Does that mean he's washed, or does it just mean it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get in the rhythm and flow? Cam Newton on the flip side, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Certainly had a nice debut for the Patriots, but what's he going to look like throughout the course of the entire season, especially when you start putting the ball in his hands? Like, there's a lot of things that we just don't know yet, and we won't realistically know for several weeks. So I implore fans of just about every single team, including mine, as a reminder for myself, don't overreact too much to what you've seen just yet. Because you got a 16-game season, and we've seen one of them so far. Just one.